It's interesting. I don't want to retread the things I just talked about, but they don't know how to make the change. The change they've invested in for the last 10 years don't solve anything for them. Um, they have there's the tension between the orderers and the order takers, the conflict in organizations is just huge in most places. In the banks that we're dealing with, and inside of a company that does software for municipalities, and inside a company that does software for water systems. It's another municipality sort of play, but we've got like this tension between the business side and the technology side it just comes up again and again and again. And technology is asking for more and more money, but they haven't produced results in the past. Costs are going up, and they don't have a plan to get out of it necessarily. It's the trust challenges between the executives. We've got three different places that we're dealing with right now that are trying to rewrite from scratch everything, and they can't get all their business rules in a new thing for 5 years. So trying to find a path from really poorly written software that's unreliable, won't change, can't scale, can't put it in the cloud, to stuff you can put in the cloud that will function. Like finding that path is really really common too, because the old stuff is so broken, but there's so much business rules and so many nuances embedded in the code that to go discover all that and write it from scratch seems impossible too. That's a really common problem, is how do you take all that knowledge that's embedded in the code and get it into the new applications and get it into the cloud. There's a little bit of a nuance to what we used to emphasize in market and be able to solve for clients versus what the problem was perceived as. So Basecamp 1, predictability, just getting the teams stable and able to deliver, and then just smaller batches at Basecamp 2. 80% of the organization's problems, that number is made up. It might be 60, it might be, but it wasn't 100. 80% of an organization's problems could be solved at that sort of Basecamp 1, Basecamp 2 sort of space. Just really predictable, really solid, stable teams. But now I have to go put this stuff in a data center, and even those things that are stable and predictable need to move faster. And so we're ending up having to move stuff. Almost everything ends up with a cloud play. And there's this idea of cloud enabled versus cloud native. But even the cloud enabled stuff, which is sort of a lift and shift of your technology, which is what we were seeing 5 or 10 years ago, we're not even just lifting and shifting things into cloud now. We're containerizing things. There's a whole change of things that must be true for those containers to work and be monitored and wrap surveillance around them. There's a whole class of things that we have to do today that are different than we did before. The operations groups are very confused and concerned and unclear in how to manage this shift as well. We have people wholesale shutting down data centers and putting stuff in somebody else's computer, right? Have you seen that before? That if there is no cloud, there's just someone else's computer, right? But those other people are really, really, really good at running this stuff and monitoring and keeping it updated and keeping it, all that stuff, if you do it right. So doing it right so it can be run by people that are great at running their computers, is now a first-class concern. It's not just good enough just to get predictable and get better quality and get a little bit better throughput through the organization.